as a country, we are going to make the turning point in the fight against the primitive, barbaric, and murderous behavior of cattle rustling. For a long time, these criminals have been using some spaces within parts of our country which are difficult terrain spaces, inaccessible, and generally uninhabited. It has, over the years, it became very difficult for security agencies to move bandits from these places. And when I made the orders that we made on 12th of March at the Malasso escarpment, we did gazette certain areas as disturbed and dangerous and requested the public, if there was at all any member of a law-abiding member of the public, to vacate those places. We were not speaking to bandits, we were speaking to any member of the public who could have been in those spaces. And because of the culture of impunity, many of these bandits thought we were playing games. And some of members of the public whom we suspect could have been family members of these criminals heeded the 24-hour notice, and therefore we did promise that any Kenyan who was legitimately affected as a result of the movement will be resettled. And therefore, in our next phase, we're going to look at if any genuine cases of displacement were caused. Our assessment is that there wasn't any displacement, because for those who have gone to these places, these are places which are not even suitable for habitation in the first place. And that's why if you hear a place where security agencies cannot be able to access, then you can imagine the kind of places we are talking about. Some are forests, like Mukogodo Forest in Laikipia. What would someone be doing living in a government forest? Others are dangerous gorges and hills. The Araba Hills in Baringo, the Tandare Valley, the Silale Gorges in Tiati. Other dangerous escarpments, like the Malasso escarpment. You just need to go and see, the kind of terrain we are talking about. All these places, I am a proud Kenyan today to report that we have flushed out our criminals from all the areas that we gazetted as disturbed and dangerous. Some of the criminals escaped into the general population and mixed with the general population, and that's why we have had occasional sporadic attacks here and there, livestock stolen here and there, which thefts are not even happening in the grazing areas as used to be in the past, but is happening from homesteads. And we all know that police officers, law enforcement officers cannot be in every homestead. But I also want to report that whenever there have been attacks, we have made significant strides in recovery of stolen livestock. 2 weeks ago, I was in Laikipia North to celebrate our officers there who were able to recover within 12 hours a whole, about 76 heads of cattle which had been stolen in that part with no casualties, and on the side of our officers. And we have had many other instances of recovered livestock. We still have a number of livestock which have been stolen during the period under review, which we are still tracking, because what the criminals do is when the livestock is stolen, they divide it into small numbers and scatter in different directions. But we are tracking them. I've been to Samburu, I think 8 days ago, thereabout, And there was an incident there, and we have recovered a significant portion of the herd which was stolen there of goat and sheep. So generally, we are on top of things. Going forward, we will dominate the spaces that I have said. We have completely flushed out bandits from them. We will make sure they will never access those areas ever again, whether there is drought or not, because sometimes they venture into those places in the pretext that that's the only place they can get pasture. We will deal with the problem of pasture differently, but we will never again allow any criminal to access those places. In fact, the government has decided to turn these places into facilities for presence, training, and operations of our organs of national security, both the police, the military, but also other security agencies. Because it's only by dominating the hideouts for bandits that you are able to stifle them from the lifeblood which has sustained the activity for so many decades. We are also upscaling our disarmament program. We have recovered slightly under 200 firearms from the North Rift. But we believe there are thousands of illegal firearms in that region. And we have restrained ourselves from forceful disarmament for a while, for strategic reasons. But I want to make it clear that any person in Kenya holding an illegal firearm must surrender that firearm to government voluntarily, or we shall recover it by use of force. No excuse will be given whatsoever, including that those firearms are used for grazing livestock. You don't need a firearm to graze livestock, you need a stick, a huntsman stick to graze livestock. Therefore, all people who have firearms which are not lawful must surrender them voluntarily, or we will get them by force. And we will get them. I want to commend particularly Samburu County. It is leading in the number of recovered illegal arms. And I want to congratulate the officers there and the leaders for supporting this government effort. But even the places where we have not recorded much surrender will acquire those weapons. It's just a matter of time. We will venture going forward to long-term solutions to northern Kenya and northern Rift Valley, because the permanent solution is to provide water points for animals to avoid unnecessary migration. But we are also going to open up the north of our country with infrastructure development and social amenities, roads, hospitals, water projects. And it's no longer a development issue, it's a security issue. So already a master plan for that region has been concluded, and we'll roll it out. It's going to take a bit of time, but we are going to mobilize resources from within and without government to transform the north of our country once and for all. I have said before when I appeared before Parliament, the future economic stability of this country lies in us securitizing large tracts of our country that remain unsafe, and therefore they cannot attract local and foreign investments. And many of our people, the huge number of our population, is struggling in a very small space of our country, yet we have a huge country which remains with untapped potential because of insecurity. So we are going to roll out in our next public accountability statement. We will say the initial steps. Some of them we have started taking already. In this regard, we will utilize the labor, expertise, and equipment of our security agencies, including the National Youth Service, to reconstruct our country and to provide for livelihood support and resilience for our communities in the northern part of our country as part of making sure the place remains safe and secure for local and foreign investments. That's where we are. During that period under review, we have also been able to initiate war on our number 3 priority national security threat, which is the trade, manufacture, use, and abuse of illicit and toxic alcoholic drinks, narcotics, psychotropic substances, and the engagement in other organized crimes. We have already done 2 regional forums. We will continue with other forums in Upper Eastern, at the coast, in Western, in Nyanza, every part of our country. The problem of toxic alcoholic drinks that are being manufactured and sold to our young people with detrimental consequences looks like a social problem. It's not a social problem. It's a very serious national security problem. And if we are not careful, when all the adults today are gone from this country, we will not have a country to hand over to the next generation. And therefore, those who are engaged in the manufacture, sale, distribution of toxic and chemical-laced dangerous drinks, drugs of all types, your time in business in Kenya is over. We will fight with you with the same energy, clarity, focus, and make sure that we get you out of our country and you either look for something else to do, or we will get you something else to do, whatever that is. So again, that is something we've just initiated, and therefore maybe in the next accountability statement I'll be reporting progress, because we must win that war. The fourth major national security matter in our assessment is the rise in violent extremism in several fronts. Number 1, religious extremism. And I think the Shakahola example will just illustrate best that we have a problem in this country which we regard as a religious problem, a social issue, but it's not. It's an existential threat to our country. We are still in Shakahola, and I am afraid we have more mass graves in Shakahola which are not opened. We'll start opening those graves on Monday, once the current phase of postmortems of the last cohort of bodies is concluded at the end of the week. We are also going to take new measures which are announced from that space, which has almost become my second office. Next week, I'll be back there. But the kind of damage Shakahola has done on Kenya, if we do not remedy and deal with this problem head on, this is the kind of threat that can hurt the country in the scale and manner in which some countries have been hurt our good neighbor Rwanda is an example of what happened in that country because of ethnic fundamentalism. Now that is religious extremism. We are also witnessing cultural extremism, mainly in central Kenya and parts of Upper Eastern. In Upper Eastern, the cultural extremism and Northern Rift Valley, the cultural extremism is in the perpetuating of some of the crimes we are fighting in that area, including cattle rustling. There is a cultural extremism component that we must tackle. In central Kenya, we have seen during the period under review a reemergence of cultural extremism by groups which are proscribed under the law of Kenya and which some people would like to revive. We saw them chanting the other day outside the DCI when we arrested a suspect. And you can see the courage, the demeanor, the impunity of these criminals. I spoke on Sunday. I would like to repeat for purposes of clarity. Any person who thinks that we can go back to the years when terror groups hiding behind culture raped our women and our children, as well as extorted money from business people, that person is dead wrong. All those who could be recruiting unsuspecting youths to take part or to join prescribed organizations are enemies of Kenya. And for the sake of Kenya, we have to come for you, and we'll get rid of you so that you go where criminals go. Criminals are supposed to be in prison, and I'm the Minister for Prisons. As much as I want to decongest prisons, but at the same time, I have room for dangerous criminals, like the people recruiting our young boys, giving them hard drugs and cheating them, that they can fight security agencies, extort money, kill people, and commit sexual violence against the women and girls of Kenya. So there is a cultural extremism, and then religious extremism, and non-religious extremism. No amount of resistance will arrest our resolve to make sure that Shakahola never happens again on the soil of Kenya. No amount of resistance, not even by going to court and getting injunctions and having suspects freed on bail. We will use whatever method feasible as a country, because it is a shame for us, collectively as a country, that Shakahola happened. By allowing Shakahola to pass like that, we would have failed future generations. And therefore, all those priests, pastors, monks, rabbis, imams, and all other religious people who could be involved in criminal activities and are hiding behind the Holy Scriptures, that the use of Holy Scriptures will not save you from the jaws of justice. when we are done with Mackenzie and his perpetrators, we will have you as the next example. And I can report we are actively investigating a number of extremists, leaders of groups purporting to be religious groups, but who are engaging in serious crimes against humanity, including sexual violence, slavery, torture, and inhumane and degrading treatment. No religion, no scripture, no legal provision will save you from accountability and justice. We will not fear you because you are invoking the name of God. We are all human, and we all know God in our own ways. So we are not going to allow you perpetrate crimes and hide behind scripture. And fundamentalism and extremism is not a reserve of a particular religion. All criminals hiding behind religion, your time for business in Kenya is over. Look for another business. People manipulating believers and faithfuls, robbing them their property, indoctrinating them, radicalizing them. And when we ask questions, they wave some doctrine. As you are aware, we have established a task force, and the Commission of Inquiry has been established. Those are some of the accountability mechanisms that will help us, but we are actively investigating, and we are zeroing in on a number of other Mackenzie-like people before they cause us harm. The harm levels will be less, but the direction they are taking is the Mackenzie-Shakahola route. Finally, in terms of national security threats, is the rise of violent resolution of political, economic, and social disputes in our country. Let me start with politics. In recent months, although it has been a problem for a long time, politicians who have political grievances want to incite the public and use the constitutional provisions that are so clear and unambiguous. They use those provisions in a warped manner to imply that the fundamental rights and freedoms include the right to kill, torture, and loot people's property. I have said before, we are aware as government that we have a constitution, a very, very solid constitution, especially on the Bill of Rights. But we are also aware that constitution is carefully worded to allow the exercise of those rights within the law and in a situation of peace and law and order. It started at the national level. That culture has now percolated to the countryside, to lower levels, to low-ranking politicians, and in the period under review, we have witnessed certain behavior, if not curtailed, will make our country break down its long tradition of law and order and the rule of law. Last month, people, citizens, who had what I consider very genuine grievances against security agencies, decided they would storm the Wajir police station and try to overrun it, simply because they are aggrieved. And as I have said, I think the complaints were justified. Last week, citizens who, in my view, appear to have some grievances which appear genuine, Kericho and Bomet. What are they doing? Attacking police officers, burning police vehicles, burning tea-picking equipment, looting shops. When you ask, you're told, we have a freedom to protest and air our grievances. I have just returned from Misibania, where over the weekend, last weekend, a group of hundreds of heavily armed civilians carrying crude weapons, including stones, axes, and all manner of crude weapons, stormed Isebania police station. Again, on the basis of what appeared to be very genuine grievances. Highly organized, highly facilitated group of civilians and citizens attacked a police station, attempted to overrun the police station, attempted to break into the armory and steal firearms, attempted to free persons who were in lawful custody. I am from that border town now this morning, and I have made it very clear that first we will take accountability as security agencies that when we do not deliver our services or some of our officers are engaged in corruption or they are engaged in harassing wananchi, we are going to take action against those officers. And I have said to the community there and all other affected areas where these grievances are emerging, I have said this government will side with the public, even when public officers appear to have violated their oath of office and broken the law. We will side with the public. And we are willing, the government will part ways with any public officer who misuses their authority for the sake of our country. And going forward, it will not be enough to transfer public officers whose conduct has clearly gone outside the services they are going to provide, and the public confidence has been lost, because transferring such an officer is transferring a problem from one place in this country to another place in this country. So we'll find ways of dealing with that. But I have made it very clear today, and I repeat here, it doesn't matter the nature of the grievances we may have. We must decide as a country to resolve our grievances, be they political, historical, security grievances, administrative grievances. We must resolve them within the law, peacefully, and within the structures established under our Constitution and the laws of our country. We will not allow members of the public to use the excuse that they are aggrieved to storm security facilities and try to undermine the facilities that differentiate our country from countries which are not run on the basis of rule of law, peace, and order. Many countries in Africa have disintegrated into violence. And you know it starts like that. You are aggrieved somewhere, you attack a police station, you take the arms, you free people who are in custody, you have a problem with an officer, you go and hurt them or kill them. We cannot go that route. Any member of the public who tries to access or violate the integrity of a protected area or a security facility will be dealt with in a very, very firm and final manner. We'll apply the Constitution, we'll apply the law of our country, and we'll apply common sense. That behavior must stop. If you have grievances, let's resolve our grievances, air your grievances. If the OCS cannot listen to you,